Hey everybody, this is Eric Clark's Travel Videos, and I'm here at the Szczecin Underground. And it's a museum, and we're going to go take a look at it. I'm going to show you the outside of the building. It's nothing exciting by any stretch, but it does have pictures. And we like pictures, so here's where I'm going. Szczecin Underground. Can you see that? Cool. So these pictures, though, I hope you can see them. It's kind of dark. It's like they're old day pictures. Of what it used to look like many moons ago, I guess. Maybe they're backs of postcards or something. I don't know. Huh. But I thought they were kind of cute. How they used to dress. Crazy, huh? I find it interesting that even way back then, the buildings still had outstanding colors, you know? Look at that red one in the back and the orange one and all that stuff. Roofs too. Pretty amazing. Huh. Very cute. Anyway. On this side there are. Oh, these are a little blurry. Did they have Zeppelins landing here? Wow. That would have been a sight. I certainly would not go up in one, but okay. Well, that's it. Let's go down and see what we're getting into here, shall we? And I came here once, but it was closed. It just opened at noon. And I gotta stall here or see here until 2:30, I think, ish. And I think this is it. Dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry, witam.
Tour? Museum?
Jest muzeum tour, tak.
Oh, okay. One.
One person?
Just me.
Okay. The camera, no, only zdjęcie. Photo, only photo.
Okay.
Camera, not.
Okay.
Fine. One ticket.
One ticket.
Cash?
No, credit card.
English, Deutsch.
Okay. Let me take a picture of it.
Where are you from?
Arizona, America.
American.
Yes, yes.
Arizona.
Very nice.
On three thematic exhibition routes: the red route, Second World War; the blue route, Cold War; and the yellow route, selfie with PRL, communism time. A clear route marking leads you to each of the exhibitions. With many of them, you will hear a background tone that will introduce you to the subject. In addition, each of the exhibitions is described in 3 languages: Polish, English, German. Your exploration
Polish Fiat.
from the left side. Today you will learn
Polish
about
girlfriend.
and the core
America.
of the biggest civilian
gotcha, okay.
shelter built between 1941 and 1943. Was used as a German anti-aircraft shelter since 1943. During 3 years of the Second World War, was a place to save lives of the German inhabitants in Szczecin.
Polish Army, Danish American Army, NATO in Szczecin.
Oh, okay. The helmet, yes, yes.
It was a training meeting place of the security
Dziękuję.
defense, it was the Cold War time. This place was kept in secret till 2005.
Polish, English, Deutsch.
Entrance to the air raid shelter. Today, underground shelter Szczecin. The post-war of the Szczecin is undercover. 150 shelters, 800 shelters. Okay. Ah. Exit. So it goes in and out. Okay. Okay. Dziękuję. Thank you. Bomb bunkers. 1941. So look at this door. That's a big door. Phew. And so I got my helmet on. Huh. Let's in air, maybe. Sirens. Wow. Wow. Water tanks well. The shelter is self-sufficient. It has its own water intake and 120-liter water tanks. Which water is pumped in the shelter? Okay. Huh. Wow. So the Germans would air raid here, huh? Wow. You know, Americans can't even begin to imagine any part of this. Could you imagine this in America? 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 families all living together? Wow. 8 or 9 or 10 or 12, 15 families all huddled in here? Wow. What does this say back here? This says, room reserved for women. We are in a room reserved for women. The walls are covered with phosphorus paint. When it is dark, the paint lights the room for about 30 minutes. This paint is often life-saving because people can see how to move in the shelter. Ike. Room for children. The children and their legal guardians stayed in this room. Most of the children under the age of 14 were brought to the city as part of the Kinderlandverchicken campaign. There is a heater on the wall. The temperature in the shelter is a constant around 13 degrees. So that the heating was switched to on during the longer stay. Wow. 13 degrees is pretty cold, I'm thinking. Yikes. And what's our motto, everybody? No more wars. Room for men. We are in the men's room. Despite the ventilation system which provides fresh air, every man, even children and babies, must have a gas mask. Everybody remembers well the times of the Great War, World War I, the panic caused by the gas attacks. Nothing can compare the fear of dying in torment. A gas mask is expensive. The war market keeps putting the price up. People forced to buy it will pay any amount of money dictated by the market. Ike. Can you imagine living with a gas mask on 24/7? I cannot. Ike. lower tunnel. We're in the main tunnel now, and it was converted for the needs of the shelter by pouring the concrete slabs in the middle of its historical height, and thus doubling the capacity by 100% of places. First air raid started in 1940. Fast conversion of the 19th century railway tunnel to the air raid shelter for 5,000 people saved lives of thousands who can seek refuge here. Planes come from the north. They fly over Switchanowski so that the citizens got 20 minutes to take cover. Red floor is a good thermal insulation. Red floor is a good thermal insulation material for those sitting or laying directly on the floor. It is also good silence for thousands of steps and voices surrounding the shelter. Hi. 5,000 people. Hi. I see. So they poured this layer. So this tunnel was big enough for a train, right? And so they put this floor here, which doubled the space. So underneath this is a whole nother section just like this. And I bet this would just jam full of people. Carriage for the forced transport of Poles. Such a wagon was used to transport people in large numbers at the beginning of the war. The inhabitants of this occupied territories of Poland were deported westward to the German labor camps or east to the Siberian labor camps. History repeated itself after the war, as such trains were used to transport the Poles to the Polish lands annexed by the U.S. to the USSR, as well as the transportation of Germans leaving the area handed over to Poles. Statistically, data is continuously being supplemented and corrected because several documents are yet to be found. During the displacement of the population, freight wagons were used to move people along with their belongings and animals. It was their temporary home because they stayed there for long weeks. People gathered in the shelter waiting for the airstrikes to end. Who can enter the shelter? The Air Defense Service brigades guarding the entrance bring an order of going in and coming out of the shelter as well as inside the shelter. Most of them are women. At the entrance, everyone is asked to show their ID card. It means that foreigners have no right to enter the shelter. This is huge. Okay. 5,000 people. Wow. RLB. The Reichsluftbund, RLB, was an organization in the Nazi Germany in charge of the anti-aircraft defense in residential areas of small businesses. It was established by Hermann Göring in 1933 as a voluntary association. From 1939, it became an essential tool for protecting the populace. In 1939, it had approximately 15 million members, primarily women. The training program included first aid, protection of people against gas attacks, firefighting, okay, and threat reporting. In the shelters, representatives of RLB performing auxiliary functions for so-called Bunkerdienst shelter services. Wow. You know, these kind of wows just amaze us because we don't even understand the level of this kind of stuff, you know? I mean, I guess I don't. Can you imagine being in here with your family? I was in Taiwan when I was a kid. I told you I got lost. And Anyway, in Taiwan, there was a tsunami, a typhoon, and it flooded, and we had to go into somebody else's house on the top of there and sit with a bunch of people, and because our place flooded, so you couldn't even open the door or shut a window, nothing. I mean, it was just terrible. Movie still from the film The Great Escape to the North. In front of you is a still from the film The Great Escape to the North, which you can see on the internet. The scene shows two Norwegian RAF pilots who fled at night from the best guarded camp of the Third Reich, 200 kilometers from Szczecin. They had arrived by train and claimed to be specialists in marine engine. Okay, they want to go to Sweden via the port. The film is based on the events that took place in Szczecin in 1944. Pre-war Szczecin, the regular bomb raid of Szczecin destroyed its most valuable architectural monument, the cathedral, and its surrounding virtually disappeared. They bombed cathedrals. I didn't know that. Virtually disappeared in one night. The beautiful shore, the historic old town quickly ceased to be recognizable symbols of the port city. That what survived the bomb raid was destroyed by post-war political and economical decisions. In World War II and post-war history of this city, the melting down of several significant monuments such as the Sedina or the post-war demolition of the multiple theaters are most striking examples of such action. So this must have been the actual movie here, huh? The Great Escape to the North. Wow, this place is huge. It hurts your heart, doesn't it? Golden years of the development of Szczecin in pre-war period. Photos show the largest and best known companies from the time of industrialization. It was their products that made German Szczecin famous in the 19th century. After the First World War, they were closed due to economic crisis and reopened during the Third Reich. They employed forced laborers from areas occupied by Germany. This is that red floor. I don't know if you can see it, but Polish forced laborers. 190 labor camps were created. Polish forced laborers in the Third Reich. During the Second World War, German economy suffered from shortage of workforce. It was caused by the general mobilization of men and expansions of the products plants for the needs of the army. In Szczecin alone, 118 labor camps were created in just the first year of operation. The number of Polish industrial workers in Stettin was 15,000 people. Hitler's jurisdiction applied a different labor law to them, and they were also treated worse than others. Poles were obliged to acquire a so-called workbook, an identification document for Polish forced laborers, and a badge with the capital P on it. Things intensified after 1942, when part of the judicial power was transferred into the hands of the Gestapo and special SS force. Insbesondere wurde die Situation im Jahre 1942 schlechter, was ein Teil der Macht in die Hände des Gestapo und des SS-Berichts überging. To właśnie pracownicy przemysłowi, górne, sprawy. It was the forced labor workers who built this shop. Die Zwangsarbeit baute dies. Beautiful. Women had to pull cars. Achtung, attention, Stettin. Oh boy. Emergency exit. You are 18 meters underground. Zawisza is above you. The reinforced concrete stairs are designed to withstand the direct effect of bombing rays. Notice the visible reinforcement in the concrete beams. Okay. The entire bunker area of approximately 2,500 meters. Okay. This is what it would look like when the air raids happened. Would it take just one good bomb and you'd be buried alive? Tunnel upper level. The bunker was built on the former Prussia fortress. The upper vault of the tunnel is laid like a railway line with a gap in between. It was supposed to protect against concrete cracks and ground quakes during the bombing. I don't know if there's anything down here, but maybe. Air purification and ventilation. I don't know if you can read these. After the deep well, this is one of the most important places in the air raid shelter. There are several of them on this property. It is a filter system that supplies air to people in the building. When a widespread air raid took place, and not only splinter bombs but also petrol bombs were dropped by bombers, the air heated up to 1,000 degrees centigrade and the cobblestones burned. Chambers which decompressed the polluted air protected the filters from burning down. Yeah. Thousand degrees, ick. Can you imagine burning bricks? Widow chafe. Sometimes a seemingly small discovery may significantly influence the course of history. In this case, it were small strips of aluminum and paper foil, so-called window or chafe, discovered by the Welsh physicist Joan Curran, dropped by the English aircraft, and which confused the German anti-aircraft raiders, preventing them from shooting down enemy aircraft. Since the use of the Windows chafe, by the RAF, the effectiveness of the attacks has increased and the number of aircraft shot down has reduced significantly. Bombing tables. Regular air raids on Szczecin did not always indicate attacks. Sometimes the planes only flew over the city, creating fear and panic. Bastards. Waking people up from their sleep, the number of such air raids was several dozen times greater than the above list of bombing presented in the bombing calendars. The number of alarms in the entire period of the war is estimated to be approximately 350. Ike. The first major bombing of the Szczecin took place in the night on April 20th, 1943, on Hitler's birthday. 350 aircraft participated in it, and 782 tons of bombs were dropped onto the city. When the bombs were not dropped, the city was covered with propaganda flyers encouraging the Germans to surrender. The leaflets explained, is that right? The Germans to surrender? The leaflets explain that the advantage of ceasing the defense of the... Okay. The final victory propagated by the Nazis. The number of casualties and estimated at 5,000 lives lost, about 6,000 wounded, and approximately 200,000 people lost their homes. So this must be their bombing schedule. These are all the days they're going to bomb. Oh, and here's what the chaff looks like. So it's like the things they shoot out of, you know, aircraft, right? When they don't want to get shot. Huh. Chaff. Okay, I get you. Contemporary art in the air raid shelter. Huh. $200,000 people lost their life. Or lost their houses, sorry. The fate of the fortress city. In the beginning of 1945, Szczecin was once again a fortress city. History turned full circle. This time, at the gates of the city, several thousand inhabitants of Stettin had been forced to leave the city before the Soviet army, which was to stand guard against the gates, arrived in April 1945. The Battle of Stettin lasted for a relatively short time and only took place on the right bank of the city. The left bank, the historic part of the city, was handed over without a fight. The city was almost empty, with just about 60,000 people left. The German population was waiting not far away from Stettin for a turn of events. A final decision was taken April 5th, 1945. Szczecin was officially handed over to the Poles, and as partial compensation for the lands lost to the USSR in the east, 46% of the pre-war area. Soon after, the Poles began slowly settling in Szczecin. I didn't know any of this. I mean, I know Germany came through here, but I think we're all just blissfully ignorant, aren't we? We, Americans? Let's just say Eric is anyway. How's that sound? Ike. That's that church we went in. That's what was left of it. Remember this? I mean, this was all houses, and that was surrounded by stuff. This is what it looks like now. Remember? We walked all around that. And this is what it is today, or then. Aye. There's that. That's the palace we went to, right? Yes, it is. And that's what it looked like. We walked all around that too. And this is what it looks like today. And back then. Sorry, Poland. Wow, okay.
Rozchodzi się na to, że te plusy je przesłoniły wam minusy.
Okay, I don't get any part of this, but
Myśmy mówili o dykcji, która przeważnie jest bardzo słaba.
okay, interesting. These doors are really tiny. Medical kits, protective clothing storehouse. Hi. Man, you can feel that train. That's kind of unnerving. I think dying by gas would be terrible, but I think getting buried alive would be horrendous. Okay, everybody, I think that's the end. Thanks so much for coming along. Sorry, it's depressing. Bye, everybody.